We are on the cusp of embarking on one of the biggest transitions this district has ever faced. And I wanted to update the board and have some discussion about it, and some discussion about some of the things that we have done up to this point, and what we have in front of us. One of the things that has been one of the biggest changes will be in transportation. We knew that going in, and in fact, I want to share with the board members one of the reasons that we have chosen to embark on this is you will see when we started this journey, as we were formulating our long-range planning committee and determining the needs of our district, we identified the high amount of transportation costs for our district. And it's graphic there. This is the fiscal year 2017. So the 16-17 school year, you'll see what we spend on transportation and our peer districts. If you look at this chart for any number of years going backwards, it will be very similar. Those are dollars that can otherwise go into the classroom. And then when the last board retreat that we had, Ms. Walters, this was it's probably been 4 years ago, I think, that we had one. Ms. Walters made a presentation to the board because of statistically, studies have shown that the number of transitions that a student encounters in their educational career, as that goes up, also the higher that is, the greater risk that they have of becoming a high school dropout. And as we have transitioned kids through the grade centers, we wanted to try and minimize that and also create an environment where parents have more identity with the school building. The example that I cite often is, and I've encountered this myself as a parent, Central Elementary has for a number of years had only first graders in there. A PTO fundraiser that is geared towards Central Elementary, those students may not even see the benefits of that fundraiser before they're transitioned into another building. So as we had the long-range planning committee, and this started 5 years ago, look at what our options were, they made the recommendation to this board to go to neighborhood schools and look at what and when we say neighborhood schools, that's by attendance zone. That committee gave a lot of direction from the community to the board and a lot of their input as we formulated the bond issue for the construction of Charter Oak Elementary. We could not do this until that building was constructed because of the nature of where our buildings are and where our students are. And so as we have gone through this whole process, and we are now on the verge of this transition, we have involved, obviously at the outset, the Long Range Planning Committee. And we had 16 people, I believe, 3 of which were school board members at the time. I'm trying to remember, Travis, you were Tom and Gail. Yeah, and so Mr. Solis served on that committee. And then as we went along and we passed the bond issue, then we developed an elementary transition committee that met to look at our buildings for the things that were necessary to make the transition to neighborhood schools. And that committee was made up of parents and staff members of students that would be affected. And we've used that input to help guide us as well. As I mentioned earlier, one of the greatest changes is going to be in transportation. And as you see the cost of what we have been spending on transportation, some of that is inherent with the fact that we have a very large geographic school district. And we can't change that. That is what it is. Some of that has to do with the fact that the growth of our school district is centered around where we're building Charter Oak, which is 13 miles from the administration building and most of our school buildings. So we're growing from the outside toward town, which is not how a normal school district grows. Typically they grow from the center of the town out. And so those are things that we can't change, but one of the things that I would highlight about the grade centers is every bus has to touch every school twice a day in order to run their bus route. And so that provides a traffic jam in town with a lot of, and as we've grown, that has produced more buses that make it even larger. And I go back to, I had one summer, this was probably 4 years ago, I was digging around in the closet of my office and found the file from when Bill Wagner was a superintendent in the late 60s, and when they went to grade centers. I found his notes, I found a petition from community members, some of which I've gotten to know, that signed it way back when. But I looked at his notes, and one of the things that even in 1968 he identified as a challenge for the movement to grade centers was transportation and transportation costs. And that's long before Guthrie began growing in between Waterloo and Stewart Road. And so those challenges have only grown over the years. And the grade center concept has served us well, but as we make this transition, I want to have Mr. Thompson talk a little bit about what it will do for our students, because one of the things that we had students that were on a bus for 2 hours each way, and that was from the time that they were picked up until they were dropped off at school. And that's the worst case scenario, but we have lots and lots of stories of students that were on a bus for longer than they need to be because of the way we're configured. So I'm going to turn it over to Cody for a little bit here and let him talk a little bit about the busing and the transportation and what we can expect going forward.
Good, you all see that? Okay. I'm going to kind of talk to where we are and where we're going. It's been a rather tremendous undertaking what we're trying to do. We're working with our vendor, easy route finder and things like that, to be able easy routing, to be able to do this without their help. It would have been very difficult for us to do it by ourselves. We now have transitioned from what we used to do as far as our routing goes, and now we have put in the bus stops for all those sites and pickups and things like that. So, as Dr. Simpson talked about, this past year and the years in the past, all buses went to every school, picked up the route riders and also the shuttle riders. Most of the buses in the afternoon never left town until I'm gonna really tell you, until about 3:10 was when we got out of school. It was usually about 4 o'clock before we even left town and started doing our routes. We had to drop off all the shuttle rides at each one of the schools. At one point in time, I could count on the viaduct and going down the road and everything there. It'd be uncommon for us to have about 13 to 14 buses right there in that area. So that slowed us all down. So the kids, before they even started getting ready to go home, were on the bus. Some of them were on the bus for 40, 50 minutes before we even got started going out and dropping them off in town. So that was going on. We showed students from school to school. We used to mainly do door to door. If we went by your house, we would drop you. Okay, and that means go, stops, things like that. Last year alone, for just our regular route buses, not including sped routes, activity buses, and anything like that, we covered 300,000 miles for the district, which averages about almost 2,000 miles per day. The average route time for all our routes, and we had 23 routes last year for our regular routes. It was about 3-hour drive time, hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half in the evening. So that's what went on last year. That's what we're looking at. Each bus that's assigned to an elementary school, whether it be Central, Charter Oak, Colorado, or Fogarty, will all go to Guess Junior High and High School, assigned to that school they're assigned to. They will not be going to any other grade school. They're just going to go to that grade school they've been assigned to. That's a big change. Riders will only be picked up at their primary resident address, located in the elementary boundary. And the situation with that is what we're dealing with. A couple of instances I can think of. They live at mom's house, okay? Mom lives in Colorado school zone. They go to Colorado school, they're second grade. Dad lives in Fogarty school boundaries. That bus, that mom's address will not touch Fogarty, will not go to Fogarty. So we can't pick that student up and take them to Colorado. Does that make sense to everybody? So we've had to eliminate all that. So that's some of the, I know you guys get a lot of phone calls. The administration gets a lot of phone calls, and we're getting a lot of phone calls on some of that stuff. So I can explain to you what's going on. So the show routes have been eliminated. The walk zone is 1.5 miles. It's a radius, a circle radius. And you can go to that. I'll explain that to you in a minute. The neighborhood stops have been created, so we're no longer going to stop house to house unless you're out there. There's some people out there in the country that we got to go to their house and pick them up. But we think for two reasons we have neighborhood stops. One, safety in numbers. We believe that if you have 5 or 10 kids at a bus stop, the kids are safer out there and being out there in the dark or by themselves. And two, it helps them the wear and tear and the cost of the buses. The parents can go online and register. It's on the quick links on the front of our web page there. They can register right there online, get it done with. And if they want to know, you get the phone calls about, I don't know where the boundaries are, where the walk zone is. If they go to Find My School Elementary, you click in the address, say 3900 East Simmons Road. It'll pop up what schools they're going to go to, and it says in the directions, you click on Charter Roads, it'll bring up that walk zone radius, and it'll actually pinpoint where that student lives, in the walk zone or outside the walk zone. Does that make sense to everybody? And that's what the parents can do on the website as well. We're going to drive about 850 less miles a day. That is a day. Saving about $289 per day on fuel costs alone. We're also going to reduce routes about 20 hours each day, which will allow the kids to get home quicker. We're going to be on the bus, as Dr. Simpson said, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. And that would be a big help for them. We're also going to be able to eliminate 2 routes. That could be a savings of anywhere between $50,000 and $75,000. Enrollment courses the 15th to 16th, centralized enrollment. A week from then we'll be able to email or text around information to the parents when they enroll on the 15th to 16th. In the past we were able to do something, you're on bus 1, you're on bus 2, you're on bus 3, and that kind of thing. We're not going to be able to do that. We have to input all the information because, for instance, I believe we have 6 buses assigned to Charter Oak. And so we have the bus stops set up, but that may change when enrollment, because we know what's going to happen when enrollment starts in next week? Next week. So we have to input that information, decide which buses are going to ride on, things like that. So that's going to go on. Those numbers could change because of the centralized enrollment, because we don't have those real numbers yet till we've enrollment done. So that's kind of some data and some details for you. And on this next slide is going to be information, what we're looking at, what we know of right now in our buses. You can see that like bus 1 last year drove 90 miles. This year we estimated 84 miles. They were on the route for 3 hours and 2 minutes. This year it's 2 hours and 53 minutes. So you see the savings, 6 miles difference, 9 minutes difference. But when you go down for next one, bus 2, they drove 105 miles. This next year they're going to drive 72. We go from 3 hours and 15 minutes to 2 hours and 5 minutes. We save about 30 minutes on each time in the morning and the afternoon routes. That's what that's talking about right there. And at the bottom, you can see the information I kind of gave you. The 2,000 miles we drove last year, the 1,000 miles we're going to drive this year, and then the time frame from being on the bus for 3 hours for the AM and PM routes, about a little under 2 hours for the AM and PM routes for this year. So that's the difference in what we're trying to do.
One of the things that has been discussed a lot has been the difference that we're making a change in with regard to some of the daycares. We have provided, because of the shuttle system that we created 6 years ago, we have provided that as a luxury to the daycares if they were outside the no-ride zone, a way for them to shuttle their students there. But that is not, in my opinion, an obligation of the school district. That is an obligation of the daycares that they have had that luxury over these 6 years. We are continuing to provide some shuttle for the YMCA that is on our campuses, and because there is no appreciable cost to do that, that involves running a bus from Willow Creek Nursing Facility to Cottle, and that involves running a bus from Golden Age Nursing Facility to Central and then to Fogarty. Those are very short runs and do not take a large amount of time, nor do they take a large amount of fuel. I know that there have been a lot of discussion from the daycares. Mr. Thompson spoke with the daycares last spring and informed them of our change, and we didn't hear a lot from them until recently. And I know that the board members have heard some things, and I've heard some things as well. But if you look at other communities, that is an obligation of the daycare to provide that transportation, not an obligation of the school district. We will continue on a daycare that is located within a delivery area of a certain elementary. We will continue to transport those students as a courtesy.
Outside the walk zone.
Outside the walk zone.
Correct.
We will continue to provide that as a courtesy because that does not increase our costs. We're already going to run that bus there. But the remainder of that falls on the responsibility of the daycares, and that is pretty standard for other communities. And so we feel like we informed the daycares with ample opportunity so that they were able to make preparations for that.
Hey Cody, do you want to talk a little bit about what your staff has done this summer with the planning of those routes?
Yeah, they spend a great deal of time. Dale's our easy routing guru that's been helping us. And they've been working with Jane and a couple of my ladies over there. And as they set the routes up, then we had to actually go out and drive those routes to see if they made sense. because we only drop off on the door side. We can't drop off and the kid has to cross the street. It's illegal. So some of those routes, when the computer does it, it looks like it's a good route, but sometimes they get it backwards. So they had to go out almost a month and a half and drive every one of these routes and make sure that it makes sense of what the computer is telling us makes sense. And so we've had to change those. And we've done some downloads and things like that to get everything correct, because what ends up happening is, even when you want to look at the find your school, elementary school, if you don't put in the right address, it can ship you somewhere else. So you got to put in East Simmons Road or Avenue or Lane or something like that. And so we've had a lot of those issues with the ISIS part we have, that they have periods in the wrong spot, or they don't have avenue, or they don't have road or something like that. And it's kind of polluted our documentation and our information that we have. So they spend a great deal of time this summer going out and driving those routes to make sure they're right. We still have one or two more we're looking at that we believe we can tweak. So that's what they've been kind of doing, Doug, and everything during the summer, getting those correct, make sure they make sense to us when we make those stops.
That's a lot of time spent. We appreciate it.
It's a big change here. We're going from basically, if you wanted to ride the bus, if you wanted to go from the junior high to Central, we took you. You know, it was basically, we picked up any kid basically who wanted to show from school to school. We picked them all up, going home and things like that. We understood the mom and dad thing, the example I gave you, or the grandmother thing, or stuff like that. And we had to draw a line at the school boundaries. We couldn't even, how do you tell, we got a first grader and an 8th grader. And grandma, and they live in Central, but grandma lives in Cotterill. Well, we only pick up the Central kid. But we do go by the junior high, pick up the 8th grade kid. We still couldn't cross over. We're not making any crossovers to that school boundary. Does that make sense to everybody? And you may get some phone calls on this. If a bus is going to go to that stop with my grandma, why can't we take him home? We just drew a line in the sand on that part of it. That we only going to do the district, the school boundary that the resident is located in only. Because if we start going outside that, then we get back where we started again. Picking up everybody, taking everybody home to whatever address they want to put down. So that's what we've done. And it's been a lengthy exercise in getting it all done correctly. And it's hard for these people who have used to us in the past many years, just picking them up and taking them where they want to go.
I think, I've had a few emails from parents that I think any situation that is worthy of review, the Transportation Department has reviewed it for consistency. And I think we have applied that consistent across the district. But I think there are potentially some things that could produce some exceptions, but I don't think we will know those until after we start school. And we want to serve our community, but I think there's at the end of the day, transportation is not a requirement by the state. It is something that when we claim a student on their average daily haul, then we are obligated to provide that transportation. But we are applying this consistently across the district on students that we apply to our average daily haul. So going through that, I think it's important for the board and the community to know that the goal here is to funnel as much money as we can to the classroom and look at ways where we can serve our students better. And then I guess, Cody, what else? And I did want to make mention of it's my hope in this transition, this kind of parts away from transportation, but in the big picture of the elementary transition, I think with parents that can now be involved with their children's education for a longer period of time and dedicate that service to a building, I think we can see and expect and hope for greater involvement from the PTOs in fundraising and in service projects for the school buildings. And you know, I think that there's always a core of parents in each school that shoulder a lot of the work, and they're always very involved. But having a situation where those parents are, they may have 1 or 2 or 3 children in one building versus spread out across town, will provide for that parent that is so involved and so dedicated to channel their energies toward one building. And I think it's a great opportunity for our community and for our the dedicated parents that want to serve and help all of our students. Cody, you might discuss what the other things that we've done around the district to prepare for this with the buildings and the moving and all of that.
Past June, we moved 29 of our teachers to the 3 elementaries in town, Central, Colorado, and Fogarty. There's 29 of those teachers that got moved, their furniture and their belongings, books and things like that. On the August 21st and 22nd, we're going to move the remaining teachers that are going to Charter Oaks. I believe there's 19 of those, I believe. I think that's what that number is. It's a simpler move. We're just moving, we're not moving furniture because we're getting new furniture. So we're just moving their books and things like that. So it took us a week to move the 29 teachers in. Jen, it's going to take us about 2 days, maybe 3. But by the end of the 23rd, we should have all those teachers up there in Charter Oak. The furniture, tomorrow, we couldn't delay it anymore. We're getting all the PE equipment for Charter Oaks, and we'll store it over there somewhere. Where it'll be safe. On the 20th, the remaining of the furniture should start arriving. The Burco furniture was a large piece of that. There's a lot of the classroom furniture and things like that. Scheduled to come the 20th, and the remaining furniture for the office and the media center should be coming that same day or the next day or 2 after that. So all the furniture should be there at Charter Oaks. They're going to unbox it. They're going to put it together for us, and we're going to set the rooms up. So we'll be ready for the teachers as soon as we can get them in there. The remaining piece of it was, for example, at Colorado, all the plumbing fixtures are made for the little guys. And so we've had to change all the schools.
And girls.
Do what?
And girls.
And girls, sorry. Girls, yes. All the Central, Colorado, and Fogarty, we've had to put in standard size plumbing fixtures. And we have 4 left at Central to do, and that should be done this week or next, and that will be completed. So those are the basic things we kind of worked on so far.
Was there modifications to the cafeterias, like larger tables such as that?
No, they'll be able to fit it. They'll be fine there. We've had to extend out some of the, like Colorado, their serving areas where they just serve them one, they only get one option basically at the pre-K, kindergarten, maybe 1st grade. We had to extend out the serving areas for them. That's been all good. They get more options now because they got 3 or 4 groups.
Cody, can you just take me through if we have a child that lives 3 blocks from Cotterell but is in junior high, or a freshman at the high school cannot drive?
Yeah, they have their own boundaries.
So they walk to Cotterell to catch a bus?
We'll have a bus stop for them.
Okay.
There'll be that's a shuttle, we don't do it anymore.
Okay.
We're actually creating bus stops for those kids that go to, we call it 5 plus, 5th grade and above. So you'll hear me say it sometimes, 5 plus. Those have their own boundaries for the junior high guests and the high school.
Okay.
And if they're outside that 1.5 miles, we will pick them up at their bus stop.
But what about the kids that, like I say, 3 blocks from a elementary school but need to go to the junior high or high school?
We'll have a bus stop.
They have a bus stop?
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't have to walk to the schools anymore.
Okay.
One of the things, and I do want to mention this, there's some concern, I think, at Charter Oak safety, and there's some concern about Noble and some things like that. I've met with the city manager and director of public works about the crossing of Noble at Walnut. And we're working with the Department of Transportation. Because that is a state highway, they have to approve any change. What I've asked for from the DOT and the city is to extend the school zone as it begins at Central, extend it all the way east behind Walnut, so that we slow cars down, and then we get a crosswalk with lighted signage across Noble to create a safer path for students to cross there. I've got to reach back out and see where we are with that, with the city, because they were making that request of ODOT, and to allow students that are on the north side of, on the south side of Noble to cross as they walk down, to cross Noble and walk down Walnut. Working with County Commissioner Pearson also on the establishment of, and he's got an email to me from this morning where we're going back and forth and trying to get the proper school zone established for Charter Oak and the signage there, and potentially painting some crosswalks through the intersection of Douglas and Charter Oak as well. There are no sidewalks down Charter Oak, but there are no sidewalks on many of our streets in Guthrie as well, and students have been navigating those for many years. But I've talked with Sheriff Devereaux. We expect a greater presence of deputy sheriffs for speed enforcement along that area, especially early on as we get used to the change in the speed limit down Charter Oak. And part of the focus on the SRO that will be at Charter Oak is that he can run traffic as well when he's not in the building. And so we're trying to maintain a safe environment with the speed that's being traveled up and down those roads.
So Cody, it looks like the projected savings may be as much as $125,000 or so.
Yeah, we get, if we say what we're talking about saving, 850 miles there. Most of our buses get an average of 6 miles per gallon. So you times that, you come up with whatever that number is. Then our average cost per gallon for diesel we purchased last year was $2.05. So I got around 100,000, somewhere in that ballpark. That's what we're looking at, being able to put back into the classrooms when we do that. So.
Plus fewer route drivers.
Do what?
Plus fewer bus drivers.
Plus fewer bus route drivers as well, yeah, correct.
That's a significant amount.
Yes, it is. And it's also, and more importantly, it is a money saving, because I was looking here, because when I first got here, my last stop was Tahlequah, and when Dr. Simpson first showed me this deal, we had just started to do the bus stop. Every bus stops there. Tahlequah was actually number 2 when I first got here, and it's gone down to number 7 now. So that's the difference right there in what they're saving by going to neighborhood bus stops there as well. So, but more importantly though, it's what really bothered many of us was you see the one stop, look at bus 15. We're 4 hours and 45 minutes. You know, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes and some change each day, AM and PM. Those kids are on the bus, and we now believe most of our buses will be back by 4:30. Once they know the routes and things like that, they're going to be able to get out. We even had to change Charter Oak because of the time the teachers leave the school. We actually had, in the afternoon, we've actually created Charter Oak buses only, so we can pick those kids, get those kids home, and then we're going to go to the other 5 schools and pick those kids up with 3 different buses and just take them home as well, because by the time we pick up at the upper Clyde, graced the Guess, junior high and high school, and then got back down to Charter Oak. This is 3:45 or later. The teachers are already, everybody's wanting to leave, things like that. So we've actually had to split that up in the afternoon to get them home quicker. And that was one of our main purposes. One was financial, but two was to get these kids home quicker and get them off the bus. That's a long time. 4 hours on the bus per day is a long time for those kids.
Well, and the goal here was never about money. It was about providing a less time on the bus for our students. But when you look at this figure and the graphic of our spending for transportation versus other districts, and you have to look at that as well. You can't ignore that. So that's why this, when we started this journey, it was about getting kids off the bus in less than 2 hours. And now we feel like we can save money as well.
And those numbers can change a little bit because we know what's going to happen when enrollment hits next week and things like that. So that's not going to be significant, I don't think. So we're in that ballpark right there.
And I think I caution everybody to remember too, enrollment is so critical, and there's a good thing to us starting late. It gives us more time between enrollment and the time we start to try and flesh out some of these issues. But we know that we're going to have students that are going to school in Guthrie that have gone to school elsewhere, either be homeschooled or have gone to private school, but because of the geographic location of Charter Oak, are now going to be attending there, because we've heard from them already. And so there's no way to project what those numbers will be.
So Cody, I'm sorry, I missed, you're saying that our actual cost per student should fall down somewhere around the Tahlequah area? What
I
is
didn't
this?
say that.
Okay, what are you predicting us to go from 525? Are you predicting us to be in the low 300s or possibly in the 200s, or just don't know until you have enrollment?
We don't know yet. We'll have to watch the numbers. This year, when we're done with this year, we track we do not give the information until we track it when the bus is pulling for fuel and things like that. I can track how many miles we're saving per year to be able to see where we might fall. We don't have to hire any more bus drivers. We can eliminate 2 drivers. The national average, and I'm basing it off that, is $35,000 a route. So those numbers are pretty real. The fuel savings and things like that, we'll have to see as we go the rest of the school year. So this year is even different because we're actually, the days are less than it was in the past as well too. So, but we'll be able to track that, and at the end of this year, I can probably give you a good number that we can look at, see what the savings is, and then the average. They'll do the average, what do they do here, and they'll be able to determine where we are in the rankings and things like that. I use Tahlequah because Cherokee County is almost the same size as Logan County. It's a pretty good size. And we went from every end of Cherokee County over there. So we were going every which direction over there. So the big counties, dirt roads, same thing going on here.
The difference there is they have a large number of dependent schools inside the Tahlequah transportation zone.
Well, I know just in the years I've been on the board, I've watched, because I do live in South Logan County, as you know, and I've seen the neighbor kids come home at even like 5:15, 5:30 at night when I first got on the board. And then I've seen it cut down, way down, to, even an hour earlier than that, which, some days, because I've watched them get off the bus and everything.
Yeah.
So this, I know you've made, just since I've been on and you've been here especially, there's been a big difference made,
Yeah.
big change, and I appreciate that and all the work you've done, and I know it's going to be even better now. So I think that's great strides that, you made, your team, everybody, so.
The routes
I commend you.
always start off slower because people get used to different routes. And everybody on my staff, all my drivers are going to have different routes this year. There's not one route that's the same as we had last year. We've had to change every single one of them. So they're going to have to learn their routes as well. Instead of one day going out, we're going to send them out 2 or 3 days just so they know the routes. But it is a a big task in what we're trying to do and things like that, because it can be mind-boggling. I've gotten busy doing it sometimes. It's just a lot of information, because you're wanting to do it right, and you're wanting to make the routes as productive as we possibly can in what we're trying to do here.
On the bus stop locations that you have within the district for such as the kids' junior high guests, is the city going to allow us to put a sign as far as where the kids know exactly they need to be? Bus stop, or are you just saying the corner of, and you don't know whether it's east side, west side, north side, that intersection? What?
You don't typically put a sign up for a bus stop unless a parent builds one and does it themselves, because that's an expense that we don't really want to take on. I'm sure the city doesn't either.
Well, are you indicating which side of the street, north, east, west, whatever location of whatever intersection, or you just saying the intersection of is the bus
When we
stop?
put northwest corner, I'll have to look at that for you.
Okay.
Okay, I understand what you're trying to say. A lot of it could be, a lot of our routes, our stops will be probably in front of the house. So maybe 101 East 1st Street for all I know, as an example. And that person may get forced into where that's where they go to school, and that's where they live at, and they get to jump around the bus, where everybody else has to go to 101 East 1st Street. That makes sense? A lot of those will be that way. The ones on the corner, if we're trying to get out of having to go into a lot of neighborhoods. So we do have them at the corners there, what Dr. Simpson was talking about. Normally there's no signs put up, but we will clarify that for the parents know where to go.